sometimes you're given a gift that you just can't forget? I'm not talking about the most expensive gifts or the flashiest gifts, but the ones instead that hit you at a core level. They're usually simple, but deeply meaningful. I was given one of those such gifts in 2017 when we did our first international deployment in the Kigoma region of Tanzania. Now, at the time, we were working with the United Nations World Food Program, and we were using Farm from a Box as a way to increase the nutritional security and livelihoods of smallholder farmers within the host community of one of Tanzania's largest refugee settlements. Now, one day, we were driving to the site, and we passed one of the farmers that I had become friends with named Benjamin. And I waved towards Benjamin, and Benjamin stops and flags down the truck, and he runs out alongside us. Now, Benjamin is one of the older gentlemen that is in the community, and he's a father of 8. And I tell you, this man works like an absolute lion, so he just has this presence about him. So he comes out to the truck, and he hands me this bag. And I open up the bag, and inside are 4 fish. Now, for a community that is struggling with nutritional security, the gift of food can feel like a mighty one. But what I realized is that's just what you do when you are a part of the community. You take care of each other, you share, and that is what the real gift is. Now, it's time for some sobering realities. Our current food system is in dire straits. We are producing at a rate that absolutely is beyond, well beyond, our planetary boundaries. And to make matters worse, our global food system is being rocked by war, by supply chain distributions, by drought, by skyrocketing fuel costs and fertilizer shortages. So this is leaving farmers globally scrambling for solutions, and quite frankly, it's leaving millions at risk of malnutrition and hunger. So we've really got a lot of work to do here. And this does not have to be the path that we take. Instead, we can see this challenge as our greatest opportunity to make sizable changes now by addressing it head on and changing our approach. So we designed Farm from a Box as an off-grid infrastructure that is entirely powered by clean technology as a way of being able to really strengthen localized production at the community level. Now, this modular, decentralized system basically works to strengthen local and regionalized food production by providing communities with the tools that they need to really be able to stabilize their crop growth, but do so much more sustainably and efficiently. Now, each one of our farms is powered 100% off-grid, and this is important because we can help accelerate the transition from heavy, polluting, emission, environmental or agricultural equipment to net zero clean technology. An example of how important this could be is just one standalone 40-foot Farm from a Box unit can reliably capture and store 43,000 kilowatts of energy annually. When we talk about what that's equivalent to, that's 31,771 pounds of coal that we're saving in terms of the lineup of energy, which is significant. Now, because we are pairing this system with regenerative, soil-focused crop production, we can also sequester about 2 tons of carbon in the soil per acre every single year. And focusing on soil nutrition also allows us to be able to produce an average of 18,000 pounds of high-value crop production per acre per year. When we're talking about food security, this is significant. Now, with each one of these systems, the regenerative agriculture, again, supported by clean technology, means we're crop agnostic. So we can grow absolutely any crop. Again, why is this incredibly important? Because we can shift away from monocrop systems and instead move towards diversified culturally important, and regionally adapted farm systems that are much more resilient in the face of climate change because they're used to those areas that they're growing in. Now, we also included drip irrigation. Let's be real, we need to make sure that we're conserving our water resources as much as we possibly can, so drip enables farms to be able to do that, while also extending the growing season and stabilizing crop production through droughts. This also opens up the opportunity for farmers to be able to grow a more diversified crop than what rain-fed agriculture would typically allow, which is incredibly important. So we also have internal cold storage inside of that system. So as soon as you saw the box, I'll go back for a moment, almost the entirety of that inside of the system is a walk-in cold storage unit. There's a significant amount of crop loss that happens in field, singularly due to lack of cold chain. So as soon as the crops are harvested, there needs to be somewhere for them to go to stay fresh. Because crops, as soon as they're harvested, lose up to 20% of their nutritional value just because of continued metabolism and water loss. So the more we regionalize and localize our crops and bridge where production and consumption is happening, the more nutritious crops we're consuming, and that's literally impacting what our dietary health is as well. Now, this particular farm is an important one that I want to showcase because we all know in this room, look, technology is not the only solution. It's just a part of the equation. But it's in how we're directing that technology, and more importantly, why. So we feel that technology is really designed to enhance the sustainability of a farm and actually amplify what the social cohesion and cultural norms are that happen there on the farm. So this particular farm is in Pine Ridge of South Dakota. It's called Rebel Earth. Now, the Lakota historically have suffered greatly as a result of the weaponization of food. But here, they're growing locally grown food sovereignty again and reintroducing culturally important crops and herbs for the entire Lakota community again. This becomes a part of their cultural identity and pride again. So what they're doing is they're using our box, which they named Gandalf. They're using this box as a way of being able to support the field, but what they're doing is integrating prairie patches within their growing spaces since they're out in the Great Plains so that they can increase the biodiversity on the farm, make it wildlife friendly, and make sure that they're really amplifying what that food security is directly within the community. So this is shifting from a reliance on food rations to agency in their own nutritional security, which is incredibly empowering and important. This is Ram. Now, Ram, we've worked with him for years. He and his family fled Bhutan when he was only 10 years old. And he's lived for years in different refugee settlements until the International Rescue Committee ended up relocating him to Sacramento, California to begin life anew. Well, in 2016 is when we started collaborating with the IRC to really use an undeveloped vacant plot of land in an urban area to have a space for resettled refugees and displaced people to build a home and a sense of place, again, through agriculture. So they're learning different techniques, they're learning business skills, and they're integrating directly within their new home. Now, one thing that really stands out about this particular farm is that it's a melting pot, an absolute melting pot. They're farming with immigrants and displaced people from all around the world on one plot of land, side by side. They are teaching each other about what their traditional practices are. They're teaching each other new crops. And so we see that this provides a huge benefit in terms of, again, the social cohesion and the sense of community that farming and food production can really enable. Now, when we think about where we are, again, food is an enabler, and technology can help us get further. We're looking at one of the most consequential decades in potentially our humanity, and we've heard this from some of the presentations earlier. What we do in the next 10 years is going to determine what kind of future we have and how we live. Climate change, and conflict are the two largest accelerating factors to our global food crises. And it doesn't have to be that way. Both are exponential. The worse they get, the more they grow, and then they exacerbate each other, and it's a vicious cycle. But this doesn't have to be the case, and we know that we can do better. In this room, we know the power of being able to collaborate. We know that when we are talking about what's next on Earth, what's next within our global agri-food systems, we already have the proof that localized food systems are much more climate resilient and contribute greatly to not only economic stability, but peaceful cohesion and social cohesion among people around the world. So we have an opportunity to really switch things. Now, in our own way, what is next is we know that Farm from a Box can provide a powerful anchor for communities to grow their own food. And we now know its greatest potential is in how we can use this decentralized technology to build an interconnected ecosystem of smart farms, region by region, country by country, enabling everyone to be able to be self-sufficient with regeneratively grown crop production that is important to their local culture and communities so that they're much more resilient together. Now, as explorers, we know that there are no bounds to what human potential is and what human ingenuity can actually enable. And so we have the opportunity to come together to be able to make real change in the same way that we heard that space and the discoveries and research that is done in space inform the way that we can address climate change on Earth. In the same way that paleontology can provide those red flags and those warning systems of turn back, you're going in the wrong direction, learn from these things. The same way that oceans impact land, we can work together to make sure that we are really elevating this and addressing it in the time of dire need, which is this ticking clock of the next decade. So I go back to what our original gift was. Now, while we're working to extend what global food security could be like by helping shift from unsustainable mass production and instead focus on sustainable production by the masses and really harnessing the opportunity that communities can provide us with this, I'm reminded of the gift that Benjamin gave us in the very beginning, which is community builds food and food builds community. Food is that connective tissue, just like we heard in the presentations earlier, that interweaves us all with our common humanity. So the more that we're able to shift away from this transactional relationship with food and the short-term solutions, the more we can interweave the fabric of our own sustainability and really build food as a pathway to our collaborative and collective peace and prosperity. So thank you.